Congratulations, you've made it to the final section of Project Hope's Advocate Training. This section is focused on self-care. And the whole reason why we finished with this section is really just to remind everyone that this work can be extremely difficult and draining, and it's important for you to take care of yourself. So this section is full of tips and tricks, as well as a little bit of humor thrown in. So we hope you enjoy it. We are going to start off with a video. So go ahead and pause this one and click on the link in the comment section below. All right, so coming back, let's take a moment to look at statistics for trauma professionals. So between 40 and 85% of trauma professionals experience burnout symptoms. 50 to 85% experience high emotional exhaustion. 59% report high stress levels. 36% report depression. 35 to 90% of trauma professionals leave their job every year. And the average time of prevention training is only about 30 minutes. So what are the terms that we're focusing on? So we have vicarious trauma. This is a stress reaction that's experienced by therapists, counselors, victim support workers, and researchers who are exposed to disclosures of traumatic images and materials by clients and research participants, in which the therapist or researcher experiences long-term or lasting changes in the manner in which they view themselves, others, and the world. Secondary victimization is feelings, personal distress, and symptoms often experienced by helpers working with people suffering from traumatic stress. Compassion fatigue is an emotional response often experienced by people working in the helping profession, caused by an overload of work within traumatized clients. It is often worsened by lack of support or coping skills, or by particularly difficult and traumatized. And finally, we have burnout, the condition of someone who has become very physically and emotionally tired after doing a difficult job for a long time. So let's take a moment to look at symptoms of secondary trauma. So it's important to note that these are essentially the same as those of a primary trauma. So things like re-experiencing the events, avoiding the events, or anything that might remind a person of an event, or hyperarousal. So these symptoms are all things that you'll find for PTSD survivors. Untreated, they lead to burnout or compassion fatigue, which may manifest in feeling exhausted, worn out, a sense of ineffectiveness in your work, emotional distress, detachment, ineffective professional behavior, and depression. Take a moment to read the quote up on the screen. It's important for us to learn to recognize stressors, physical and emotional wellness. Stressors are present in all areas of our life, and they affect all areas of our life. So we must purposefully live to build and continue meaningful, effective relationships and environments. So I want you to take a moment to think of some examples of stressors in the various areas that are shown on the screen. So for example, if we had a bad day at work, we may go home and take that anger or frustration out on our roommate or our family. The same can be said for any of the other categories. What's affecting us in one area of our life is going to touch and, for lack of a better term, infect other areas of our life as well. So, some questions to constantly be asking yourself to assess your stressors and your physical and emotional wellness. How am I doing? And then what am I doing about it? It's important to develop your skills of living with a wise mind. This essentially means that you keep your intellectual, logical, and emotional parts congruent with one another. Remember that it may be easy to ignore or minimize difficult emotions, but you and only you are responsible for your self-care and resiliency. People can remind you, they can try to hold you accountable, but you, in the end, are who's responsible. So it's important to take initiative and seek assistance if you are struggling with self-care. So we're going to take a minute now to look at red flags. So go ahead and read the examples that are up on the screen. So now let's take a moment to consider what your components of resiliency are. So this essentially is just, how do you manage stressful situations in your life? So there are a lot of different ways you can do this. What's important to remember is that these wellness strategies are completely self-determined. So it might be things like having good eating habits. So maybe when you're stressed, you tend to not eat, or maybe you overindulge in certain things. And maybe engaging in social activities, going out with friends, volunteering, being part of the community. It could be a sport or a hobby that you really enjoy that maybe when you're feeling stressed kind of gets set aside. So there are a lot of different ways that we can really make sure that we're building our resiliency and enabling us to better cope with those stressful situations when they do come up. So that's what self-care is all about. In a nutshell, all self-care is referring to actions and attitudes that contribute to life maintenance of well-being and personal health while promoting human development. In terms of health maintenance, self-care is any activity with the intention of improving or restoring health or treating or preventing disease. A holistic approach is common in self-care. So we have to remember, as people in a helping profession, that we can't always put others first. And being able to say no to something is actually brave, and it's okay. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. You cannot effectively help others if you are not in the best condition you can be. So I want to pause for just a minute here and give you an example of it. So if you have ever flown on an airplane, I want you to think back to the instructions, the safety instructions that they give you, specifically when they're talking about the air masks that drop down in the event of an emergency. So if you've flown before, you may remember that one of the things they tell you is that you need to put the mask on yourself first before you help those around you. So think of self-care as that mask. Everyone needs it. Our clients need it. We need it. It's very important. But we as advocates are not going to be as effective for our clients if we are not taking care of ourselves. So we need to be putting that mask on us first before we look to put it on the clients that we're serving. A wellness and self-care plan is absolutely essential. We really need to figure out what's important to us, and this will help us to better tolerate frustrations. We also need to keep in mind that we can't change the world in one day, so we need to take this a day at a time. So we are going to look at something now called the laugh technique. So before we get started, below in the comments, you will find a link to a short video. This is another humorous one, but please go ahead and watch it. When you're finished, come back to this slide and we will continue with talking about this technique. All right, welcome back. So we are going to continue our discussion about the laugh technique. So each letter stands for a different thing. This was created by the woman in the video. She is a motivational um, comedian speaker. I've seen her at a conference that I've attended. I find her to be very funny, but she created this laugh technique. So I'm going to talk about it now for you. So L stands for laugh at your humanness. So essentially, don't beat yourself up about the little things. We all have one of those days. So a really great saying is when things go wrong, don't go with them. Ask, or A, excuse me, is ask the 3 reboot questions. So when you're in a stressful situation, step back for a second and ask yourself these 3 questions. The first one is there anything funny about this? The second one is, am I going to let this ruin my day? And the third one is, would this be funny if it was happening to someone else? So just as a side note, we reference humor throughout this section because it can be a really great tool for discharging stress. That being said, it's not appropriate for every setting. So please keep in mind that we are just trying to give you information, but it'll be up to you on an individual level to figure out what works best for you. So now we're going to look at you. It's undue stress in the moment. Motion changes emotion, so get up and move to interrupt a mental stress state. So if you think back to the video, she talked about the washing machine action. So if you're having a stressful situation, for example, working here at the office, maybe there's something you're doing on the computer and it's just not working right, get up and move. Take a quick lap around the office, go get some water, maybe even go outside and walk around the parking lot, and then come back. It'll break up that situation and you're going to feel a lot better about it upon your return. G stands for get really good at complaining. Ask yourself if humor would help you achieve your desired results. Again, this is not appropriate for every circumstance, but sometimes, having a chance to be sarcastic or use humor to complain about something, it may be beneficial. It helps you kind of discharge. There's obviously a time or place with that. We don't want to do it with the clients, but maybe you've got another person at the office that you trust and you can kind of do that with them. The last letter is H, and this is a made-up word. It's humortunities. So humortunities are everywhere. In life, you get what you look for. So look for humor in everyday situations. Now we're going to look at compassion satisfaction. So for individuals that are working in helping fields, compassion is a pretty common trait for all of them to share. So the idea here, and you can see it on the screen, is that it's this cycle. So the act of helping, we get enjoyment out of that. And from that enjoyment, we then get gratification that we're able to help, that we're able to be part of this process. That gratification then rejuvenates us, it gives us energy. We're then feeling successful, and then we want to help more. So this is one of our good cycles, right? We've shown you quite a few different cycles now, or wheels now, that are not good, but this is a good one. So it can go around and around and around. But there are a lot of different things that can interrupt pieces of this, and it makes it harder to get back on track. So there are a variety of factors that can help promote compassion satisfaction. So go ahead and take a minute to read the suggestions up on the slide. One more, go ahead and read these ones. So there are a variety of ways that we can address and transform vicarious trauma. So some ways to address it, those self-care activities. So knowing what helps us when we're in a stressful situation. Nurturing activities. So these are things that maybe nurture an aspect of our life or a characteristic that we really value or find important. And then escape. So this might be taking a mental health day, just a break, stepping away and doing something that you enjoy, but getting away from the stress. Then we've got our transforming aspects. So this could be creating meaning from the stressful situation, maybe challenging negative beliefs that we held, or participating in community building activities, including volunteering. So these can all be ways for us to address and transform vicarious trauma. Okay, so we are now going to give you examples of different types of stress relievers or self-care things that you can engage. Again, remember that everyone is individual and they're different. They enjoy or respond to things differently. So if you don't care for one of these exercises, that's fine. We're still going to show them to you anyways. Please participate. These are good for you to know also, not just for yourself, but for the clients that you're working with. They're often coming to us with bad coping mechanisms. And so these are really easy things that you can teach them to do to help them manage those situations. So please follow along and participate in these as we go through them. The very first one we're going to do is called Count on Your Senses. So here we're trying to self-soothe with the different senses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to just kind of be still. Hopefully you're in a spot where it's quiet and you're not having a ton of other distractions around you. I want you to go ahead and take 2 deep breaths in and then let them out. Now, I want you to look around and think of one thing that you can see. I want you to think of 2 things that you can taste. 3 things that you can hear. 4 things that you can touch. And 5 things that you can smell. So if you think of being in a stressful situation, again, I'm going to use the working on the computer. You're just trying to do something and it's not working for you. Taking a pause, just a step back, take a breath, and think about these different senses. You're really putting yourself in the moment and you're disrupting that stressful situation. And then at the end, you can take a deep breath and come back to it. So now we are going to look at a psychological self-care exercise. This is also known as like a safe place. So again, please participate. So I would like you to go ahead and close your eyes, sit in a relaxed position, and I want you to take 2 deep breaths in and out. In and out. Now I want you to think of a place from your life. This can be a real place that you've gone to, maybe some place that you would like to, or even an imaginary place. But it needs to be a place where you feel safe. I want you to think about the smells, the colors, the textures. Really build that place in your mind. Keep thinking about it. Okay, go ahead and take 2 breaths in and out and open your eyes. Now we're going to talk about an emotional self-care exercise. So this is called People Who Love You. So I want you to go ahead and close your eyes again for me. And I want you to think about someone in your life. It could be a family member, a friend, a significant other. It could be someone who's currently in your life or someone who used to be but isn't around anymore. But this person needs to be someone who has shown you unconditional love, acceptance, and compassion. The next time that you are in a stressful situation and you're being really hard on yourself, I want you to think of this person. How would they talk to you in this circumstance? We tend to be so incredibly hard on ourselves when things aren't going well. We think that we're stupid, that we're incompetent. If that person was standing there in that moment, would they be saying those things to you? Most likely not. So we should strive to treat ourselves with the same respect that the people who love us treat us. Next, we have our professional self-care exercise. So this can be a variety of different things, but it's essentially summed up as leaving work at work. So it could be as simple as packing up a couple of minutes before it's time for you to leave, and then maybe taking a couple of breaths, and then you can walk out the door. It could be singing in the car on your drive home, or when you get home, showering to wash off the day before you go into the rest of the evening. It could be cooking a food that you love, or lighting candles, or listening to music. Whatever it is that works best for you. But we're trying to leave everything that happened during the day at work, leave it there, and go home and start the next part. And finally, we have our self-affirmations. So again, this seems kind of silly, but it can be really helpful. So if it's not your cup of tea, no worries, but really building up yourself. So you see the example here on the slide, it's the dog. But standing in front of a mirror and saying, you're smart, you're awesome, you're capable, you're whatever you want to sub in for you. And just saying that to yourself over and over and really believing it as you say it. For some people, this is extremely helpful. So this is just another possible tool for you to use. So we're getting close to the end. We are going to take a look at here the top 10 guidelines for self-care and being an advocate. So these are things that we've touched on throughout the training. I know that you all are capable of reading, but I am going to verbally state them to you as well. It's important for you to remember that the people that you work with here are not your friends. And what I mean by that is that with the friends, there's always that concern of making sure that they like you and that you're not saying things to upset them. And it's a give and take. That's not how it works with the clients that we serve. Sometimes you're going to have to tell them things that they don't want to hear. Sometimes they're going to be angry at you for those things, but they're not your friend. You're here to provide them a service. It's really important for you to understand what your boundaries are. Things that you're not comfortable doing, things that maybe are pushing you too far when you're feeling stressed. You are the only person that knows where those boundaries are. No one else can set them for you. Number 3 is remember that the people you work with will not always be truthful. This can be extremely difficult for an advocate. Our motto is to believe everybody. We're not asking for proof of their victimization or what's occurring. We are taking them so much at their word. But sometimes we realize that the information that they gave us is not true. Sometimes it wasn't on purpose, but there are people that come in that are here to take advantage of us. Don't let those people ruin it for everybody else. Number 4 is to practice not putting all your energy into one person. It's so easy to do when we have clients that need so much help, but we can't. There are a lot of clients that need services, that need our time, that need our money. We're not able to just give all of that to one person. Number 5 is know that it's fine to pull away for some rest. So this is something that, in your personal life with the school and jobs that you have, whatever it is, you know when you need a break and you need to respect and take those breaks. Number 6 is to learn what resources exist for personal support for you. Identify those people in your life that you trust, that you can talk to when things are just not going well. Know that staff here has an open door policy. We really want to support you, not just in the work that you're doing, but you as a person. If there's someone here at the office, be that staff or volunteer, that you feel that you can connect with and that you can trust, use that person to talk to. Staff is happy to hear about your concerns, to hear about your struggles, regardless of whether or not it's something happening at the office or something that's going on in your personal life. And then on the flip side of that, be aware of how to support those around you. The advocates, staff, and volunteers here, we need each other. So look for those around you, build connections, help to support one another. Remember that you have to take care of yourself in order to care for other people. So keep that in mind. You want to be the best advocate you can be. You do that by making sure that you take care of you. The last two are really important. We hear and see some terrible things here. And sometimes it can be easy to start feeling bad that your life is good, that maybe you have a significant other that loves and cares for you, that you've got a good life, you're not struggling with the different issues that the clients we serve are facing. It's okay to be happy, and it's okay to not take that home with you and make it feel like a burden. Bad things happen in the world. We can't fix them all. We can only do what we can do. Try your hardest, but don't let it eat you away, because we need people like you to continue, even if it's not in this field specifically, is providing support to individuals that are in need. So the quiz for this section is a handout. And for this handout, you are being asked to write down your self-care plan. This will be kept in your file at the office. Staff will be aware of that and will incorporate discussions with you about how your self-care is going. We would ask you to be as detailed as possible, but we are not requiring you to disclose anything that you are not comfortable sharing. And please know that staff is only looking to support you in your role here. We are not trying to be intrusive into your lives. We're not requiring you to share anything, but we really want you to understand that we're here to help you if you need it. So congratulations, you have just completed 50 hours of training and are now an advocate. We are so excited to have you with us and helping the clients here at Project Hope. We look forward to getting to know you more, and we hope that you get a good experience out of your work here. Please let staff know if there's anything we can do to help make this experience the best possible. So we look forward to seeing you on your first day in the office. Thank you so much.